The UK and USA, two powerhouse nations, have been competing for decades. Although great allies, the relationship between them both is like two brothers that love each other but still want to do better than the other one. Whether it's on the football pitch or soccer pitch, as the American audience might say, or at the Olympics where the USA continuously get more medals than Great Britain, or whether it's how we pronounce words like tomato or tomato, there's always a battle of who's better. But one area that isn't often compared is the workplace. And the workplace could be more important than anything else, as this is one of the ways each country builds its society. So in this video, we're going to look at 5 surprising differences between workplace benefits in the UK and USA. But if you're new here, my name's Tyler and I'm the founder of Loving Life. And we help companies support the health and well-being of their employees to create a workplace that employees love to be a part of. And if you stick around, I'll give your workplace free resources that can help support the health and well-being of any company. So what exactly makes the workplaces in the UK and USA so different? It's not just about geography or culture, it's about how each country has shaped their rules over time. And believe it or not, some of these rules are worlds apart. The UK is heavily influenced by its long history of workers' rights movements. Over the years, laws were created to protect employees. And today, the government plays a huge role in making sure workers get a fair deal. From contracts to working hours, there's a system in place that reflects the battle for balance between employers and employees. However, on the other side of the pond, things have evolved differently. In the USA, the workplace has been shaped by a culture of individualism and entrepreneurship. In the US, it's often about hustle and competition. And instead of relying on the government to set the rules, the power lies mostly with employers who often decide what benefits employees get or don't. But what does this mean for companies and their employees? Well, depending on where individuals work, it could make all the difference in how secure they feel, the support they get when life gets tough, and even how work is balanced around personal life. The rules that shape each workplace are the foundation of what employees can and can't expect. But while these foundations are key, how do they impact the workplace in both countries, and what benefits can employees count on and what's missing? And that's where things get interesting, because you might be surprised just how different the UK and USA handle things when it comes to workplace benefits. So let's look at the difference between 5 areas and see who comes out on top. Let's start by looking at something that many of us look forward to: time off work. Whether it's for a well-deserved holiday or just taking a break from the hustle, an individual's ability to take time off work can make or break how they feel about work-life balance. But here's the thing, depending on what side of the Atlantic an individual is based on, what they're entitled to can be worlds apart. Let's start with the UK, because in the United Kingdom, time off work isn't a workplace benefit. It's an individual's right. In the UK, full-time employees are legally entitled to 28 days of paid annual leave, which includes public holidays. It's all about making sure employees have time to recharge, spend time with their family or friends, and avoid burnout. In fact, for many in the UK, taking a 2-week holiday is completely normal, and employers expect it. So how does this compare in the US? Brace yourself. In the US, things are a little different. The truth is, there's no federal law guaranteeing paid holiday or vacation days. That's right, whether you get time off or not depends entirely on who you work for. And according to this article, private sector employees in the US get approximately 11 days of annual vacation time, less than half of what's guaranteed in the UK. And in many cases, employees don't even use all the time they're given. The pressure to stay productive often means Americans leave vacation days on the table, choosing to work over rest. But is more time off always better? While the UK offers more opportunities to unwind and recharge, some could argue that America's hustle culture creates a workforce that's more competitive and ambitious. But at what cost? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. More time off or the drive to succeed? Now, what impact does this have on employee health and well-being? Well, stay with me because that's what we're comparing next. Now, for many of us, we all know how stressful work can be at times, but how much support employees get from their employer can make all the difference. But the big question is, which country is getting it right? In the UK, employee wellbeing has taken center stage in the last few years. More and more companies are starting to recognize that a happy and healthy workforce is a productive one, and that their people are their most valuable asset. Many companies in the UK have introduced wellness initiatives that focus on mental health, work-life balance, flexible working schedules, and more. Whether it's things like wellbeing workshops to educate employees on supporting their health and well-being, or webinars to support remote teams, or in-office massages. Whatever the initiatives, many companies in the UK are working towards making the workplace a place of support and not stress, although many companies can still do much better. And if your workplace wants free information and resources to support the health and well-being of their most valuable asset, their people, join the free mailing list. The link's in the description box. Now let's look at how employee well-being is compared in the USA. Because while well-being initiatives do exist, they're often more common in large corporations. Smaller companies, not so much. The hustle culture in America typically reigns superior over wellness initiatives. And while some companies are beginning to adopt wellness programs, they're often seen as perks rather than essentials. And many American companies appear to be hesitant to focus too much on well-being, as some argue this could reduce productivity. But is that true? Well, the UK's approach to employee well-being is driven by the belief that happy, balanced employees are more productive in the long run. In contrast, the USA's more get it done mentality often puts productivity before personal wellness. But what happens when employees in either country start to feel overwhelmed, burnt out, or stressed? Could prioritizing employee well-being actually give companies a competitive edge? Well, there are numerous studies that suggest investing in the support for employee health and well-being can reduce employee turnover and boost productivity. It's also estimated that every dollar invested in the support of employee health and wellness can bring a return on investment of $4. So after hearing this, do you think companies will prioritize the health and well-being of their employees? Now, while the UK may be leading the way in creating a more balanced, employee-focused culture, there's a benefit that US companies may just have gained the advantage on. So let's look at what that is. Health insurance. Now, health insurance is something that many of us don't even think about until we need it. And when it comes to healthcare covered by employers, both countries have completely different systems. In the UK, most companies do not offer health insurance. If you have a health issue in the UK, you cannot rely on insurance from your employer to help. In fact, health insurance in UK companies is often part of a benefits package. But for most companies, providing health insurance isn't necessary. And that's because healthcare in the UK is covered by the National Health service. This means companies don't need to provide health insurance as part of their benefits package. The NHS is completely free in the UK for UK residents. Whether you've got the flu, a broken leg, or a serious health issue, the NHS is completely free. Now, I will add, for non-life-threatening issues, getting an appointment over the last few years in the NHS has been more difficult with long wait times and staff shortages. It's not the quickest of services at this moment in time, but if you live in the UK and have a health issue, it will not cost a penny or a cent. However, in American workplaces, healthcare isn't just a perk, it's essential. In the USA, an employee's job is often the key to accessing healthcare. Most Americans rely on their employer to provide health insurance, and this benefit is one of the most sought after aspects of any job offer. Without it, healthcare costs could skyrocket. But even with employer-sponsored health insurance, the costs can still be significant. Employees still pay monthly premiums. And according to this article, employers covered 83% of their employees' self-only insurance and 73% of employees' family insurance plans. And this means, on average, employees still had to contribute to their health insurance. And on average, this is $1,400 a year. So although US companies contribute heavily to employee health insurance, and in the UK companies don't typically offer health insurance, this is just because of the way both companies provide healthcare for their citizens. In the UK, healthcare is free. In the US, someone has to pay. But while health insurance is completely different in both countries, what about an employee's working hours and overtime? Time is one thing we all wish we had more of, and one thing that we'll never get back. But depending on whether you work in the UK or USA, how much time you spend at work could be drastically different. So what does the workday look like in these two countries? And who's really getting the better deal when it comes to working hours and overtime? Well, in the UK, the typical work week is capped at 48 hours. This is thanks to the Working Time Regulations Act. This means employees can't be forced to work beyond that limit unless they choose to or do a job with exceptions under UK law. But for many, the standard work week is 9 to 5, averaging approximately 40-hour work weeks, with plenty of legal protection to make sure work doesn't take over their entire lives. But what about in the US? Well, over there, things are slightly different. In the US, there is no national limit on how many hours you can work within a week. There are 168 hours in a week. And this means if a company wanted you to, they could ask you to work all of them. Now, of course, most employers won't ask you to do that, but the point is, companies dictate how many hours you work, not the law. And although working 9 to 5 is seen as the norm in US too, employees often work much more than that. Many salaried employees, especially those in high-paying jobs, aren't even entitled to overtime pay. That means working additional hours without any compensation. It's all part of the hustle culture. So who's got it better? In the UK, employees have the law to protect them from working crazy hours. But in the US, working longer hours are often seen as a badge of honor, a sign of commitment. But those that do work extra hours and show dedication to their employer, how safe and stable are they in their jobs? Well, before I come onto this and compare the stability of work in both countries, if you found this video interesting or useful so far, press the like button and show your support. And if you haven't, what are you still doing here? Now, when it comes to job security, most of us want to feel stable and secure in the places we work. But how much protection employees have depends entirely on where they work. And when it comes to this, like everything else so far, the UK and USA have it completely different. In the UK, employment contracts are the norm, and they come with a lot of legal protections. Full-time employees are usually on what's called a permanent contract, meaning they have strong rights when it comes to unfair dismissals, redundancy pay, and notice periods. And even better for employees, after 2 years of working for a company, employees are entitled to statutory redundancy pay if they are let go. But in the US, it's not quite the same. In the US, most jobs fall under at-will employment. What does this mean? It means that employees can be fired at almost any time without any notice or reason. No job security, no notice periods, no redundancy pay. Just a handshake and a goodbye. Now, there are companies in the US that offer robust employee contracts and provide great compensation, but this is not a legal requirement, unlike in the UK. So which country has better workplace benefits? Let me know in the comments. Now, although the UK seem to have good workplace benefits and offer some kind of work-life balance, there are 5 countries that the UK wishes it had work-life balance like. To find out what these countries are, you need to watch this video right here.